Cymax is proud to present the interview of interviews with our very own DJ Kinsashi. Here we present Tim Russ from Star Trek Renegades, right here on Cymax Radio, the sci-fi voice of the universe.
Here we go.
Fantastic.
All right, here we go. Ken, it's up to you.
Yeah, I'm right here. Yeah, it's a pleasure to speak with you. I actually got a few things here. I was getting ready, and so we kind of got off the fly here, but that's okay because I mentally keep notes of everything that I'd like to talk about. One of the things I noticed, I watched Spaceballs when I was a kid, and it's amazing how long you've been in this career in acting. It's incredible. What was it like back in that time of filming on something that was like a satire of Star Wars, and it was, even if it was just a small part, it was hilarious because I cracked up when I heard you say your line.
I got to tell you, that film has that little part in that movie is just it's amazing to me how long that piece has been revered and remembered, and how much of a cult following that film is garnered over the years. I can't tell you how many people their jaws drop if they find out that I'm in Spaceballs with just 4 words, essentially, and just a little sight gag, and it's just amazing how much life that thing has. At the time, it was just a gig. It was just a piece of work. I was doing a play downtown at Los Angeles Theater Center, and he came in. Mel Brooks came in to see the play. And in fact, I was in the play with the lead actor who played the lead in Spaceballs. And he hired him and myself. Within a month, we came out and did the movie because he saw us, liked the roles, and he offered me the role straight up. And it was a kick to get a chance to work with him. He was a really sweet guy, very nice, genuinely a nice guy. We worked for a day or so out in Yuma, Arizona, in the desert, and we did it, man. It was fun. It was cool. I didn't realize how much, how big it was going to be because we were just working on it at the time. And that was the only part that I had was that little bit. So, I didn't know what the rest of the film was like or what to expect, anything, until it came out. So, and I thought they, did a classic bang-up job doing the Mel Brooks style comedy for that thing and making it happen.
Fantastic. That's awesome. It's amazing how careers can be started off with, getting involved with stage. My father himself, he was actually a stage actor as well, went around with Alvin the Chipmunks, did his thing. His career never got kicked off, but you never know what might transpire with this simple stage, and
sure.
It's pretty awesome.
Sure. It's also just a series of ups. It's a series of ups and downs. That's just the way this business is. It is a series of ups and downs. There's a precious few actors out there, singers, whatever it may be, who maintain a really top position in the business for a very long time, and or become legends in those areas. It's a tremendous amount of work and talent and skill to stay on top, to have one show after another, one movie after another, one record after another, one this after another, and without ever stopping that momentum. It's really hard. Most of it is just, you smash in there, you get your 15 minutes or 20 minutes if you're lucky, and then you're down for for a while, and then you might give it a second breather and come back and do some more, and then it may go down again, and it's just like a roller coaster, the whole thing. It's constantly up and down. That's the way it is.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I've actually looked at the list of many of the things you have done, and I notice that you kind of have periods where you don't do anything and periods where you do, and right. Some things that are noticed, some things that aren't. And but I'll tell you, all it takes is one well done line to really make a person remembered.
Yeah. There are bits and pieces once in a while that come out, and it also depends on the film. The film itself, something like Spaceballs, is a cult film. It became a cult classic, as did several of his others, Blazing Saddles and Frankenstein. They're everybody knows every line of those movies, and they just remember them, and that's, Star Wars was such a big, and still is such a big franchise, and that parody of it is going to go right alongside it. So you're going to have as many people watching the parody as you did watch the original over time. People never forget it, and that, for whatever it's worth, like I said, so now and then I still get a small residual check from that movie, but at the end of the day, it's because it was a cult. It's because it was so popular, and such, and so many people really liked it that it still endures. Because I've done a lot of other stuff that nobody's ever heard of, probably never seen, and probably never will see. So that one is one of the ones people have seen.
User was moved.
I totally get it, and it's amazing. There's nothing like a good satire. So
I agree. That's my favorite genre in comedy is satire. Especially if it's well done.
Right on. Well, I'm going to move on here. I remember seeing you in iCarly. I am a grown up guy, but I caught you in passing because I never watched iCarly to begin with, and then as soon as I caught you as the principal, I was like, no way, Tim Russ is on here doing iCarly, and I started watching. I was really impressed. See a more energetic side of your personality. It was really sweet. Tell me a bit more about what it was like doing that compared to your other roles.
Well, iCarly, that was one of the first recurring roles that I had done on a Disney project. I had worked on a Nick project. I had worked on Disney. I worked on Hannah Montana, did one of her shows. I did another show before that, and finally got booked on this one for a recurring role. And so I was familiar with, sort of how those shows worked and how they put them together prior to doing that one, but that was the first one I got where it was sort of a recurring character that would come back and do other stuff. So, it's not unlike any other job. This particular show we did for camera live. It's not a live audience. It's just a studio show because there's so many special effects and gags that go on and that have to be set up and shot. So Dan Schneider, who's the producer and writer of this thing, is very meticulous and very detail-oriented, and also, he'll work a scene and he'll work a bit, a number of times to get it the way he wants it, or to have options in the editing room. So it was a lot of work doing that show. Those days were long, and what you would presume to be a small, short scene that didn't take too long would actually end up being a good long scene, So because he would take the time to get that thing just right. That's why that show was so popular, because it was very well done. And it also has a life of its own because a lot of kids follow that show. And I didn't realize how many kids follow that show nationwide. I can go anywhere in this country and somebody's going to recognize me from that show. So it's pretty crazy.
No doubt. Yeah, I hear you. In comedy types like that have, I'm a creative writing for Full Sail University, and one of the things I learned in my classes is how perfect and meticulous you've got to be when it comes to a comedy.
Man, it is the saying about it being, dying is easy, good comedy is hard. That is absolutely the truth. It is a very, very difficult genre to write. You have to know what you're doing. You've got to be skilled at it. You can't just sit up typewriter and start banging stuff out. You can tell a straight story, a narrative story. Just about anybody can sit down and bang out a narrative story, who's not as experienced as other writers, and try to and usually make something work. Just telling a story straight up. But when it comes to doing comedy, your goal is to make people laugh. So the science of making people laugh is really interesting. I mean, and it's not an exact science. You just have some general outlines and guidelines and things, and mechanical devices you can use, and writer devices you can use, setups and things like that, and types of humor that you can call upon. But at the end of the day, man, there's a magic to that you have to really be able to master to make people laugh. I've seen many comedies, whether it be plays or movies, that they hit the mark, and other ones that did not hit the mark. So it's crazy.
Oh, no doubt. So I've learned that you're into jazz, particularly. what are your list of favorite genres of music, and what has it been like for you producing your own jazz?
Well, in most cases, my stuff is blues, blues rock, and pop. I kind of come from a classic pop background, a classic rock background. You know, that was my the super groups of the 60s and 70s. Everybody from the Beatles to the Rolling Stones to Zeppelin to Hendrix to Santana, Chicago, Peter Gabriel, Genesis. I mean, all these guys, you know, were an influence to me. And later years, it became folk rock, folk music, folk rock, Cat Stevens, you know, a bunch of folks. Even recently, Hornsby, Bruce Hornsby, some others, even some Springsteen. I mean, I'm all in that vein, more or less, for my music. So I would categorize it more as pop rock and blues is what I usually put down. Because it's straight up jazz. I don't do that much of, unless, you know, I'm doing instrumental stuff. Most of the stuff I do is based in blues, and that stuff is it's roots music, man. You know, it's old school roots music, classic rock, classic pop, classic blues. That's what I do. And that's what I cut my teeth on, you know.
Oh yeah, that's the good stuff right there. I love the old school rock and roll and you know, Led Zeppelin. I mean, that's good stuff. I used to listen to it all the time with my foster father. That was his favorite stuff. It was fantastic. I love that music. I don't know where I got jazz from. I don't know, but I guess it was blues.
Some people consider, you know, will call it jazz in some cases, but it's, you know, some of the progressions are used in jazz, but jazz is far more complex than blues. Blues is much more straight ahead and much more basic and simple. You know, it's where rock and roll came from. Rock and roll is nothing more than, you know, like the 50s style rock and roll is nothing more than blues, just sped up with a different beat. That's all it is. It's a 1-4-5 groove. That's what that is. So it's very basic and simple. You know, my stuff, you know, including I have to include our R&B, rhythm and blues, especially from the 60s and 70s, Motown sound, into pop rock, into, and I've lived through I don't know how many eras of music thus far. So there's a little bit in each one of those areas that kind of influences me to doing what I do. But I got to say that period in time in music is my biggest influence into what I write and put together now.
Oh, fantastic! So, do you perform locally where you're at?
Yeah, I do. I've been in LA for I've lived here for 30 years. So I perform at a place called the Kibitz Room quite often, which is over here at on Fairfax in LA. And I perform there. As a matter of fact, I got to play there tonight. I got a gig tonight at 10:30. I'm going to be playing at. So my band usually performs there once or twice a month, and then I've got a couple places. I got a place in Santa Monica that I play every once in a while, and I go on the road occasionally just to do a gig, just a one-off gig. You know, I've been to Vegas a few times. I just got back to San Francisco not long ago. You know, just to do gigs here and it's for special events and things like that.
Oh, right on. You know, maybe if I get in through there, I'll stop by and listen to, you know, one of your, you know, jams, you know.
My stuff is always listed on my website. You know, you Google my name, Tim Russ, it's the first thing that comes up. So my website has all my gigs listed, has all my appearances listed. So it's always on there, and you typically update it pretty frequently.
Right on. What I'd like to get into now is actually speaking about your time on Star Trek Voyager. I mean, you went through every season. You were a chief character and, you know, playing a somewhat emotionless character. I mean, that was fantastic. You know, being the sole voice of reason for the crew and particularly the captain. What was that like?
Well, you know, here again, the process of getting Voyager was a 7-year process. It didn't happen overnight. I read for the Next Generation episode. I read for the DS9 as for a regular role in that. I read subsequently for guest star roles on both shows for 2 or 3 years before getting at least one. So I did a couple of guest star roles on the other series, and I did some work on the feature, and then finally Voyager came down the pike. So it was just a matter of time, you know, before I got a chance to get in there as a regular on one of the shows, and I just happened to be right for the role. That's how this business works. If physically I was built differently, if I had a dialect of any kind, I would not have been able to do that show. I would never have gotten that role. no matter what skills I may or may not have had, because I wouldn't have looked right and fit right for that role. And that's recreating a role that's already been established, not making one up from scratch. You know, I have to come in and carry the baton, as it were, of this race of beings, of Vulcan, that has already been established over the years, firmly established. So I can't come in there without being able to portray that realistically and genuinely for the fans. And so that's the main thing that I wanted to be able to do from the time I went to read for it to the time that I ended up getting the role and performing it. I wanted to make sure that not only that the producers were happy with everything, but that the fans would be happy with the portrayal of that role. And it turns out to be a really good part in a franchise that you know is enduring. And Voyager in particular it was a very strong platform concept for a show. A great concept. Space that's never been explored before, and you can't beat that. So harkens back to the original series.
Oh, absolutely. I've seen the series front and back, especially Voyager, multiple times. I just can't get enough of Voyager. But there are characters in the original series. They continue. They are those characters for the rest of their lives. And you have established yourself as Tuvok. You are Tuvok for the rest of your life, and that is just the coolest thing. I love continuity.
Yeah, that is an absolute truth. And once you join this franchise, once you're on that train, man, there is no stopping. So you're absolutely right about that.
Oh, that's amazing, yeah. I heard a few stories from I actually live in a martial arts temple here in Sparks, Nevada, and my sensei actually met with Gene Roddenberry in a plane. They were flying to Hawaii, I think it was back in the early 80s, and was sitting right next to him and found out he was Gene Roddenberry, and they invited him over to a convention there in Hawaii. And I was wondering, how many conventions have you been to?
I've lost count by now of how many I've been to. The average between 5 and 7 per year. Some years have been as many as 10. When I was on the show, I did at least 10 of them a year. But they now, on average right now, since the show's been off the air, they average between 4 and 6 a year. And I've already got 4 booked up for next year, and we haven't even gotten to next year yet. I just did 5 of them this year. That's about the average. I get invited to several more than that per year. It's just that I only have time to do a few of these, and I kind of pick and choose which ones I want to go to. So they're still going. They're still happening, man. All over the world, not just in the States. Everywhere.
Oh wow! We have one in Las Vegas that happens I think it's once a year or twice a year. I can't remember, but I haven't been to that one yet. I got to hit that before I leave the country. But I'd like to get back on Voyager here. I heard that you directed Living Witness. In fact,
yes, I did. Yeah.
What was it like going from a position of being the actor to not only being the actor but also being the director simultaneously? It was a very long week. I had a week of prep and then a week of actual shooting. And prior to that, in order to get the opportunity, I had to intern for directing on that show for about 2.5 years. I had to observe behind the scenes production meetings, editing sessions with the executive director, casting sessions. I had to, obviously observe on set. And then, again, sit in with the editors as they cut together footage. Hours and hours of watching these guys cut together footage of the shows. And just getting my chops together to go ahead and do it. The actual time came up, the slot came up. I don't get a chance to choose which show I got. I was very lucky to get that show. I loved the premise of that show. It was very well written, and it was wonderful to be able to shoot it. I had some fun stuff in it. I had a chance to work with the cast as the bad guy versions of themselves, which we had never done before, and that was a kick. So my crewmates and cast members were all down for everything. They showed up, their lines down, their bits memorized, their skills on display. All I had to do was say action and roll the camera, man, and that's basically it. I did a lot of homework on the show, made sure that I had all my transitions, marked out, and where I was going to book, place people and how I was going to set things up. And I think it came off very nice. I was very happy with that show.
very lucky to have a strong story to work with, because that half the time that makes a big difference.
Well, I was really glad that you got the chance to do that and actually be Tuvok, because I think you did it so well that I couldn't have asked for anybody better to do that role. So yeah, that was amazing. Now, I actually watched Star Trek of Gods and Men, and I thought that was a great role. And you played yourself in an alternate timeline that was changed, and it seems like you were. Yeah, this was a different setup. This goes back into the past during the time of James T. Kirk. Actually, after him by about a few years. So, yeah, what was it like to work on this set particularly? This was a movie you did.
Yeah, it was a feature film. Myself and two other writers, Jack Trevino and Ethan Cox, and also Sky Conway, who produced Renegades. We all had a hand in the story. Ethan and Jack wrote the story, and then we all sort of contributed elements to the story, which I think really worked out well. Because somebody could step back and say, well, too many cooks in the kitchen, et cetera, et cetera. But actually it worked out well, because each of us had some things we wanted to see in the story, and we managed to incorporate them. Plus, we had access to that classic Trek set, and it was built. The way the thing was built to scale, and it was built very authentically. So we were able to use it for the story, and so we came up with the concept of a museum ship that gets called into action, as it were. So it made sense, and we used the portal again from the original series to be able to go through the Guardian Gate as a means of getting us back into a situation where the characters were in a different place and time, different dimension. And then we were able to bring in a couple of characters from the original series who were bad guys, and introduce them as well as part of the story. So, the whole thing came together very nicely. I was very happy with how the story turned out. It's real twisty and definitely a mix of classic Trek, etc., coming together. It's very cool.
Yeah, I got the sense when I watched that you guys knew the history of Star Trek. You knew the past, and it really fit well. I thoroughly enjoyed watching it. I got to get me a copy of it, by the way. I watched it off the website. So. Yeah.
I think they still sell them. I don't know for sure if they still have them for sale or not. But at the end of the day, it turned out really, really nice. It was a grueling process of getting it shot, because we had to go on location in upstate New York, and there's just nothing there. This location was out in the middle of nowhere, and it was really hot and muggy, and cell phone service was terrible, and it was just, it was physically tough to shoot that thing. But we managed to make it happen, and shot a few days in LA as well. So we had a great cast, and everybody came together. Sometimes these things work, man. They work really well.
Well, no one can accuse you of not working hard, huh?
Yeah, no, man. There are those days and times when that's exactly what you end up doing.
Absolutely. So tell me about Star Trek Renegades. I mean, this has really caught my interest. I saw the preview of it, and I could not be more excited about it.
Yeah, Renegades it takes place 11 or so plus years beyond Voyager, and it's a much more, I want to say, edgy, a little bit darker, a little bit more out of the box version of Star Trek. It's not, it doesn't look like the other series stuff, doesn't look like the movies, doesn't look like any of that. It's a very different piece. We got our bad guys in there, and we have our good guys, and our good guys are a little more like I want to say like a pirate ship crew from the Middle Ages. They're, some of them have their own motives and their own reasons for doing things. As we find them in the story, when we first discover them, they're not a cohesive bunch. They're not all together. They're not cheering each other on. They're kind of contentious, and sometimes they don't get along with each other, and sometimes they don't. You know what I mean? It's a very rowdy, misfit crew that is chosen to do this mission because they're the only ones who can. Because it's outside the sanctions of the Federation. This is the Section 31, and there are certain things that have to be broken, bent, and twisted in order to get, as far as regulations go, to get it done. But yet, Earth's future is at stake. So that's how the whole story comes down. And so the reasons, what they do, the actions are noble. The process is not necessarily by the book, and that's exactly how it works. We have a female captain on our ship, for example, who, she would just assume put your butt in an airlock and flush you out to space if you're screwed up. If you tried something that, rather than, put you in the brig, she would just shove you out the airlock. That's the way she is. That's the difference in terms of how these things play out. Because we're introducing, this concept. We're introducing these characters. Now, over time, things might be a lot different. But, they're not giving away the story elements. This is a very different kind of Trek. So it's a very straightforward drama action piece, more so than a philosophical piece. There's not a great deal of philosophical stuff going on in there. There is a decision that has to be made. There is a quandary in terms of ethics and things like that, and how you do things. That question is brought up. That kind of concept is brought up. What are you willing to risk in order to achieve a goal? How far can you go in order to do the right thing, or to save someone, or do whatever? That's what the question, as opposed to straight and narrow and everything. It's much more of a straight ahead, action driven drama. This one.
That's amazing because we know the philosophies. I mean, many of us who are real Trekkies who see the series, all of them, we know the philosophies. We've seen them, and we see the family cohesion. But we haven't seen the darker side of the Federation. Like you said, when I saw that trailer, I thought Section 31 completely. I said, this is what we need to see. We need to see the other side of the Federation, a good understanding of the Federation as a whole, And I think a little bit more of that action, that drama, the real emotions that go behind the characters involved, that deal with the darker side of the things that threaten the Federation. I think that is just... We have been missing that, and I think that's exactly what we need as a new series in the genre.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what will become of it, if there will be other episodes, as it were, shot, or if Sky will take the Renegades concept and run with that. I'm not sure exactly what he's going to do exactly with this project and how the CBS will receive it, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of it's going to depend upon the fan reaction at the end of the day, because that's how these people work now. They just look at charts and graphs and numbers, and that's how they think. They're not writers. They're not producers. They're not developers. They're not any of that stuff at all. The people that run the studios and the networks and everything else are nothing but corporate suits with BlackBerries, and they're 26 years old, and a lot of them don't know how to even read. At the end of the day, this is what we're dealing with. This is reality, okay? Just like the TV that they keep putting on. It's the same stuff. So for them to make a decision about something like this, it's going to be based on the fan reaction worldwide.
Right, but we got to get this out there. We got to let people know about it and get that reaction. I think that's going to be very important. I think so too. If I was a multimillionaire, I would totally fund this project without even batting an eye, because I could just imagine this just out there. But then again, I'm a fan of the Star Trek series and the franchise, so actually, you get what I'm saying. So
totally. It has to be. Yeah, it needs a place to go. It's got to have a place to go. And it has to go on a either weekly or monthly basis. Maybe something that's produced every month or two. You come by like a whole hour episode or an hour and a half episode or whatever, every month or two, like a serial. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to come down. Nowadays, because of the internet, where everything is going right now with Netflix and Amazon and YouTube and Hulu and everybody else putting their own thing together, and the departure from mainstream television and even mainstream cable. Is getting into people watching what they want to watch, when they want to watch it, and that's the end of it. And on whatever medium they want to watch it. So this stuff could be produced over a period of a year, and then we release 5 or 10 of these episodes all at once. and everybody just watches them one after the other. Who knows how all this stuff is going to come down? That's a big, huge part of not just producing a show like that or doing multiple episodes or whatever. It's a big part of it is what the technology is going to say, how that's going to work.
Oh, I totally hear you. I got a few more things I want to go over. There was something else. I remember seeing you on Star Trek Generations on the Enterprise B.
Yeah.
I remember seeing you there. You got to play close to William, right? Shatner and James Doohan?
Yeah, we were in the same scene, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what was it like working with them as your career was starting to really kick up on there?
Those guys were great. Those guys were wonderful to work with. I worked with them several days. James Doohan, Shatner, they were great. I enjoyed it. I've since worked with Michelle and Walter and George Takei. I mean, they're all really, as far as actually working with them, great. It was wonderful. I mean, there's nothing I didn't notice that wouldn't have happened on any other set. As far as the way the work's done. So they were great. It was a good experience.
Oh, that's as aside from being a fan and watching the series, I've paid attention to a lot of actors, including yourself, and I've always had a good feeling that these were all great people. It's like the people that get involved in Star Trek all happen to be really good individuals. It's pretty cool, and they love what they do. They love being part of the Trek.
Right, exactly. You hit it right on the head. Yeah, they're all signed up, man, for this thing, and they come to the party, and that's what it's all about, the odd cast member here or there from all the series may shy away from some of it or not get involved in that much of it, and that's fine. Not everybody's 100%, but the majority of these people, of the actors on there that have worked in this franchise, they understand what it's all about, and they embrace all of that as well.
Okay. Would you ever consider doing a spoof to indulge the Trek universe?
Well, I have, if it's a well done, well written piece as a spoof of some type, I wouldn't mind doing a cameo or something on that. Sure, it would be very cool. It depends on what capacity. If it was directing or if it was acting, I would have no compunction about directing anything in terms of genres go, but. As an actor, it would depend on what the script was and what the role was, what the concept was, all that good stuff. Typically, for that stuff, if I was to do a spoof, typically the spoofs are usually done by other actors playing those roles, and putting those things together, rather than me playing the role that I usually played as a spoof. So if you're to satirize something or parody it, you usually want parody characters in order to parody it. It's far funnier that way.
Intriguing. So here's another question for you. I actually had this saved for last. What do you know about Star Trek Online, the Star Trek MMORPG?
Yeah.
What do you think about it? Do you play it at all?
Right. No, I don't play the game at all. The only occasionally I'll dabble on a PS3 game once in a while, and sometimes I'll do a World War II flying game online. That's the only occasion, man. You really don't have the time. I really have the time to do it. But I have, as a matter of fact, I've talked to these guys as far as that game goes about possibly doing a character for them, Tuvok, down the line here in 2014. So we might be working with them, actually doing a VO for that game.
Right on. I look forward to it. If you manage to do an episode, an episode within the in the game, that would be fantastic. And I'd look forward to.
I think it's going to happen. Yeah, I think it's going to happen. Yeah,
I think that'd be great, seeing you play your part.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I play STO. I don't get to play as much as I'd like to because I'm a busy guy. I have dojo duties. I do schoolwork, which I graduate in 2 months, and then I have my actual job. So we all understand what it's like to be busy. So we never hold it against people if they don't have time to play. But like I said, it'd be great to see more of you in the future as Tuvok on future works, whatever comes your way.
Sure. yeah, I'm looking forward to. I never know what these years are going to bring. I mean, even as we speak, 2014 is wide open. I have a handful of conventions, a couple of small gigs booked up. People have talked to me about doing other projects, but all that has to come together. All of that has to, actually grow into something. And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes they don't happen. So, there's a lot of dead ends in this business because people have the best of intentions and talent, et cetera, but they just don't have the funds. They don't have the wherewithal to get it done. So I have no idea what 2014 is going to bring. I mean, I could be, on a series come March, of next year that's totally unrelated to anything we've talked about. It just depends on how how the business works, man. The business is wide open now. So the nature of my work has always been one of unpredictability, one of changing overnight from A to B, from C to D, just in an instant. Just with a phone call, just with an email, everything can change. So that's the way this thing works.
Well, there's many of us here, fans of your work and fans of Star Trek, and many of us seem geeky. Maybe many of us seem jockish. It doesn't matter, but we all send our good feelings your way, and good karma or whatever you want to call it. We would like to see this grow and see your career just really take off. We want to see more of you in Star Trek or whatever other plans you have, other movies. It doesn't matter. We'd like to see more of you in the future. We'll definitely be listening to your music. We're going to play it online. That's what we'd like to do. Promote you as well. So that's the plan. So I think that's all we have right now. So
All right. Appreciate it very much. Thank you, guys.
And one last thing: live long and prosper.
Peace and long life.
Absolutely. You have a great day.
Take care, man. All right. Bye-bye now.
All right. Bye-bye.
This is Tim Russ from Star Trek Voyager and Star Trek Renegades, and you're listening to Sci-Max Radio, the sci-fi voice of the universe.
And this has been a broadcast and interview of Tim Russ right on the Sci-Max Radio Network. Please tune in for more interviews of Star Trek Renegades cast and crew, along with Star Trek Axanar with Alec Peters, coming soon to Sci-Max Radio, the sci-fi voice of the universe.